Hello and welcome to the Holy Hour podcast. It's the bi-weekly All Cure podcast. I'm Gavin, and I'm very excited to welcome back to the show Christian Gerard. How's it going, man?
Gavin. Oh, it's going great, Gavin. Thanks so much for having me again. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And for those not familiar, it's been almost about a year since the last time we talked, but Christian is the author of the Cure FAQ book that came out about a year ago now, and all that's left to know about the most heartbreakingly excellent rock band in the world has ever known. And
I can't believe it's been a year. Yep.
Yeah, in the FAQ series of those books, and yeah, we talked. I guess it was a little before Christmas, but seemed like it was fairly hot off the presses right around maybe November-ish. When
it came out in mid-October.
Okay, yeah.
And we spoke in December, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like we're saying, crazy that it's been a year, but welcome back, and so good to have you for this special episode. We figured we'd bring in the man that literally wrote the book on the Cure. So, we're gonna have we did tons of anniversary episodes, and now it's been kind of quiet since there hasn't been one in a while, or I guess there's more like tour news going on and everything. But we're celebrating Let's Go to Bed tonight, and its 40th birthday. It's kind of the forgotten anniversary that everybody, is throwing down for.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a really big one. It's a very pivotal moment in Cure history for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought it'd be great to talk through all of that with you and how the song emerged and where we stand on the song and where the fans stand and all that, and just honor the 40 years. Like we're saying, that's crazy that this song is 40 years old. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I hope you got your tuxedo on. I'm all dressed up here for the party.
I'm all dressed up. I'm ready to celebrate.
Yeah, got the cake should be here any minute now. So 40 years of Let's Go to Bed. Like I said, we had Pornography's 40th and Wish 30th. So as we're closing,
years just fly by,
Yeah, and I guess when there isn't like tours or new albums or anything, we really cling to these anniversaries because it's the only.
It's a good excuse to talk about the music.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no problem, and it just sort of places it in context of over the years, and but really, it's always good to talk about the songs.
Yeah, for sure, and it's cool when it's like an individual single like this and an anniversary because. This really was its own little thing, we all kind of in hindsight group it together on Japanese Whispers as a thing, but it really was just, standalone single, which is kind of cool, with
yes, it was.
Pretty rad. But I guess before we dive into Let's Go to Bed talk, though, you've been doing okay, and what do you think of all this tour talk? And
I'm doing great. I can't wait for the new studio material to emerge, and I've been following the set list. I haven't really paid attention in terms of are there going to be more dates announced. I would love to see them, come to the U.S.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the status is there.
Yeah, no real news right now. Everyone's just kind of crossing their fingers and holding their breath still. So hopefully we get some kind of.
that it's going to happen, but
it seems that way. But at the same time, everyone's little bit panicky, we're not quite to that mode yet. I think I've been saying if we get to the end of this tour and we haven't heard anything, then it might be a little troublesome. But
I agree, and it's a little bit late. Have they even announced an album release date or anything? But
still no.
It's kind of like here we are. We're almost to the end of the year, right. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a 2022 release.
Yeah. So
it would have to be like very, very soon.
Yeah, it would have to be like a total surprise drop, and they don't seem to be going that way. So
no build up or anything, which is like, what's the delay?
Yeah.
It's I get that the Wish 30th came out, and that was an important reissue that everyone was waiting for.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that sort of push things back a little bit.
Yeah, it
with
might
the
have
new
had something to
studio.
do with it, or just a reason to give them a little more time to do whatever the hell they need to do to it. But
Yeah,
and
I
they seem
mean,
to like the spring release, so I'm hoping it will be
yeah.
like the spring, like an April release, and then they start the tour then too, and then the rest
I
of the
mean, it makes
world show
sense.
would be kind of more for the album. This is kind of the pre-album tour, and then so hopefully that all
Yeah,
lines up. But
it kind of makes sense. That's sort of timetable. That's what they did, if I remember correctly. Something similar with the 413 Dream record.
yeah, that got
They
pushed
it
around.
was pushed back, and they were still on tour, and then they came back and came to the U.S. after the release, I believe. Something similar time frame, I believe. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'll be happy whenever it comes out, and I'm hoping they come to us. They will. I gotta figure they will.
yeah. I'd be very surprised if they get to that last show in December and be like, "This was it. We're done for real this time." Where everyone's just like, "Hey, wait."
It could happen. Anything
You know.
possible. I hope not.
Yeah. So, have you been liking the new songs you've heard though from the live stuff?
I haven't even
Have you?
I have been unwilling to listen to them yet. I just am sort of
Nice.
saving. I like
Yeah. It's,
I've seen the clips being available, and for some reason I'm not ready to listen to it yet. I just kind of want to save it.
yeah.
You know,
I could.
I'm not quite there yet. I don't know. My headspace is like I just want to sort of wait.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably wait until there's like several that they maybe put them all together or something. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I have not listened to the new tracks yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I kind of like to hear the studio versions first. I really don't care so much for hearing the sort of live early versions of tracks when they leak on tour and
Yeah.
so forth.
I could
I
see
sort of
that.
avoid those. I don't know why.
I was very hesitant at first, but then I just kind of gave in because it isn't like a soundboard recording even or anything. It's just totally
Right.
like phone, like and I even
Yeah,
like if
and
it
that's cool, but
yeah. So I mean,
I
it's like
just there's something about like hearing a Cure song for the first time, where it's like it's almost sacred,
right,
and
right.
I'm kind of weird about it.
No, that's awesome. I totally wanted to go that way, but I gave in to temptation. But yeah, when I think
Nothing.
back of like old Cure stuff, it was like there I was in my bedroom as a kid alone, and
Yeah,
I shut the doors and everything, and read the
yeah.
lyric. It was this whole like ceremonial thing, like you're saying.
It
And
is. It is.
now I'm gonna be like, the first time I heard Alone, I was. Well, I pulled up the video on YouTube and it was great.
Yeah, I
So,
get. Yeah, it's totally. You get it. It's there.
awesome.
There's only so many new Cure records that are going to be coming out from
Yeah,
this point
so,
forward. So
so
it's like it's going to be awesome when it finally emerges.
totally. So yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully, with you closer on the East Coast, then yeah, we'll have to do a show there. I'm gonna try to hit up all the East Coast ones, or at least as many as I
Yeah,
can, and that would be great to cross paths somewhere.
that would be
I'll
fantastic. I'd love to do
definitely
that. I'd like to get to a few shows also this time.
awesome.
Hopefully I can make that happen. Yeah.
Cool, cool. But let's go ahead and just start the ceremonial let's go to bed praise, if you will. And
Yeah.
tattoos.
Happy birthday. Let's go to bed.
Yes.
Classic single.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but it's almost like its role and its like whole story is almost even more important than the actual song when I really dove into
Yeah,
it. It's like
it is. It is. It really is. It's like it really like its existence. The fact that it came out when it did, it saved the band really, and it opened up a world of possibilities for them. I mean, it's just mind-boggling when you think about the short amount of time that elapsed from pornography to Let's Go to Bed.
yeah.
Just mere months really, and they couldn't be more different. And it just showed the
Right.
versatility and the ability for Robert to like. At that point, the Cure, synth pop, they could do anything from that point forward, and that's what they did.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because yeah, it's like it took the full spectrum in the other way of where pornography covered about as dark as you could get, and
Yeah, you couldn't
then it's
out
like
pornography. I mean, really, there's
yeah,
nowhere to go from there at that point.
yeah, you
You
could
know,
only
there's
slowly turn it back to like Faith Caliber and then 17 seconds and then go
yeah.
full
So you
pornography.
retread the same
So
water, and then like, what purpose would that have served?
right.
I think they did the exact right thing. And
Yeah.
Robert hedged his bets because he was brilliant. He played right down. He kept slagging the song in the press. So if it was a failure, he already sort of inoculated himself like
Right.
against it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. It's like I
he
was
just
just
he's
doing that for fun anyway. So yeah,
exactly
there's a lot of push and
exactly.
pull with this tune. But I
Yeah.
guess before we totally dive into the nitty gritty, then do you remember the first time you heard it?
Yeah, I do. It was definitely on the singles collection, "Standing on the Beach." My first Cure experience was with the "Just Like Heaven" video, and I got the cassette single, and
Yeah.
then I ended up getting "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me," and shortly thereafter, a buddy of mine in school gave me a dubbed copy of "Standing on the Beach" that he got from his brother, and all the old singles, learning all the way
Yeah.
from "Killing Arab" up through "The Head on the Door," and "Let's Go to Bed" is definitely one of the standouts for me. At that time, and sort of stark change from what had come before it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I first heard it.
Yeah, it's a very
And then I got
easily
the Japanese Whispers not long after that, I'm sure.
right. Yeah, that was a very easily accessible little mini tape. I remember back in the day of like Japanese Whispers. That's why the one you always still see the most reoccurring at like shops, or like there's always a
Yeah,
Japanese Whispers.
yeah.
For some reason they must have really cranked that out over here.
I think they did. And it was, yeah, you're right. It was everywhere.
And yeah, mine was the same kind of situation where it was like, I guess technically the first time I probably heard it was live because a friend of mine that got me into The Cure made me watch In Orange with him, and I
Oh,
was just kind of
nice.
like, and I'd heard a few songs scattered here and there. And then I kind of
Right.
just watched it, but didn't really absorb any of it really that much. I just kind of dug it without knowing any of it. And then that convinced me to buy Standing on the Beach, the tape with my brother. We split it because I wasn't even sure I would like it enough. So it's like I'll pay half, you pay half,
Yeah,
and
that's kind of
then like
cool.
everyone, where you just like one song, then the next one you love, then the next one, and then yeah, I remember "Let's Go to Bed" just being like a super catchy, fun song. I was like, oh yeah, these
Yeah.
guys are totally just able to crank it out, without even really differentiating between pop and dark, because everything was singles there. So I was just like, okay, yeah, it didn't seem weird at all.
Yeah, that's true. At that point, it didn't. On the singles collection, the flow was different than say, if you were to go from album to album to album to album.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
but yeah,
always amazed too by like a diehard Cure fan that had started from the start, or even like come in on 17 seconds or something back in the day, like how weird this curveball must have been. As we all know, there was been a bunch of curveballs thrown by Robert over the years, but
yeah,
this was probably the first, and maybe arguably still the biggest curveball,
yeah.
if you
It
think
had to be.
about it.
It had to be. I
So
mean, you couldn't ask for anything more different than what he was doing just a few months before. The
right.
tour had just ended, like 4 or 5 months before "Let's Go to Bed" hit stores, and
Yeah.
it was like, and he did it so it seemed so effortless. That's the amazing thing about it. I mean, it's not the world's greatest song, but just think about like his vocal on it. It's so playful and
Yeah.
so confident, and it's totally different than the sort of turgid, sort of hard edged, emotional kind of stuff that he was doing on Pornography.
Yeah.
Totally different. It's much more relaxed. It's much more playful. Like he had always been doing that style, but really he
Right.
hadn't. That was the first time he'd ever done that type of
Yeah.
style, that type of vocal. And it's just, he did it so effortlessly, and it just seems like such a breeze. And
Yeah.
it just shows his talent and versatility.
For sure. Yeah. And like it was always in there, and I guess he saw like poppy stuff with Three Measure Boys and Boys Don't Cry, but it was
Right.
different, it definitely wasn't that kind of pop, since it was still very
Right.
post punky kind of, jaded or jagged edged
Yes.
kind of stuff, and then it's always
Yeah.
easier
And the
to
vocals were sort of tightly restrained, tightly constrained in that sort of
right.
vocal style that he was using at the time.
Yeah.
Here, it's just much more playful and relaxed, and it's it's the Robert Smith that became a star. All of a sudden just emerged on that record.
Right. Yeah, that's wild. And to think of like in that moment too of how weird that must have been, because we've had people that have talked on the show, or people talking on the show, we've had them where it was from that era and they were kind of just cool with it because it was such a good song, You know, it's all like, oh,
Mm,
that's
yeah,
different, but it wouldn't be like the drastic, what, they've gone pop kind of, you know. And I think everything
right.
was so rapid fire and you didn't have all the internet shit to really dwell on it. You know, you're just
Exactly,
like, cool, all
exactly.
right. And then like a few months later, the walk comes out and you just,
Yeah.
you just go with it. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine as a fan, they didn't even know about probably the fights and stuff that went down and
Oh, I'm sure they
pornography. And
never.
I mean, so many
Yeah,
people just were like, oh, okay, so he's doing this now?
yeah.
So,
I mean, I can't even like, and it's like it's what made someone a fan from 17 Seconds, Faith or Pornography. Like, what connected with that fan? It just seems like Let's Go to Bed is such a different experience
yeah,
that you wonder if it probably attracted a lot of new fans. I would think.
yeah,
You
for
know.
sure. Yeah, I wonder how many people it
Because
did
it wasn't a
lose.
huge hit, it wasn't a
Right.
huge hit, but it just sort of set the stage for
Yeah.
the next couple things, and then The Walk became a top 20 single,
Yeah.
and they were off, to the races.
I would love to find somebody that did just like call bullshit right then and there and like I'm done with them. You know,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
the
it's
Cure
there's
fan
got to
that
be
was like
people.
I only like the dark shit because there's so many
Yeah,
now, you know. But it's like that have these definitive lines of where the Cure just pissed them off too much. I don't listen to anything past this and that, you know. It's like
oh,
somebody
they're
that was just
probably. I'm sure they exist.
yeah, somebody out there was probably like, oh well, that sucks. I like that band. They're not like that anymore. You know? And then
Yeah.
they go on. But I guess speaking as far as changes, this song in particular, since the younger days of listening to it for the first time on those tapes, has it changed a lot for you in your opinion, or is it over
I
these
mean,
40?
I'm not a big. It's one of those songs that if I never hear it live again, I would be perfectly fine with that.
Right?
You know,
Yeah.
it's not something I would go back to or revisit very often. To be honest, it's like it's been played so many times, and it doesn't really have that sort of like, for instance, just like Heaven. I never get tired of hearing it. It never
Right.
gets old. I could play it a million times. Let's Go to Bed is not like that for me, but I much prefer the B side, Just One Kiss, which I
Yeah.
think really stands the test of time.
Yeah.
I appreciate Let's Go to Bed for its importance in the sort of direction that the Cure took.
Right.
But as a song, it's kind of, it's
Right.
catchy. It's I could do it without it at this point.
It does, yeah, teeter into that category of like, why can't I be you and stuff, or if it's like, it can almost get a little annoying on the wrong day. And, and
Yeah,
like you say,
yeah,
and I always felt like too, like a lot of those Japanese whisper ones and stuff, that's probably why they don't play a lot of them live or ever
yeah.
on a few of them because
Yeah,
they don't
I
really
agree with.
translate live as well. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, The
there's,
Walk is in the same boat for me, and I wouldn't mind if I never heard that one again live either.
yeah,
Um, and the B sides are okay, but like I really like Just One Kiss. I think out of all those songs, it's the one that's the strongest. I think Love Cats is a really cleverly conceived, really well done track too.
yeah,
But Let's Go to Bed, it stands up. It's not like it's hideously dated like a lot of the synth pop stuff from that era. It doesn't have that really horrible cheesy vibe to it that some of those songs do. So
right.
that in and of itself is a good. None of those stuff is. Maybe the dream sort of crosses over into that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's weird. I was gonna ask you about that because at certain times I feel like when I've been like just even before starting the podcast, talking to friends and stuff, I was always like, I love just or Japanese whispers and those singles and everything, but they are the most like, especially maybe like through the '90s, like late '90s and stuff. I would
yeah,
say that I love them, but they are the most dated Cure and stuff,
yeah,
and
I agree because like 17 Seconds, Faith and Pornography, they have a very sort of timeless aspect to
yeah.
them. And the Japanese Whispers, the singles, um, they, it's not as bad as a lot of stuff from that era, I will
Yeah,
say. Yeah,
exactly. And that's
not as bad
yeah, I
as a
was
lot of
gonna
stuff
even
now.
come back with, but now it doesn't even. It almost kind of comes in waves of like
Yeah,
now there's
yeah,
so many new bands that like make that sound specifically or try to even and it's like
yeah.
well, especially
So I
the
think Let's Go
darker
to
stuff.
Bed's, yes, it's not, yeah, yeah, in the walk. I think that a couple, maybe the Dream is the worst culprit. It's got that really
Yeah,
sort of Japan-like keyboard riff, and
right.
um, I that's the weakest link, I think. But
Yeah,
it's there's some cheesiness there, but I think that overall it stands the test of time better than a lot of that synth pop stuff from that period.
Yeah,
You
for
know.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's funny too, like just in the last couple days I've even, I didn't make it through every lineup change and era of the Cure or whatever, but I was just kind of randomly picking live clips of Let's Go to Bed just to see how much it's evolved or changed live. And like we were saying, it's one that never really gets nailed live, I don't think. There's been versions I like a lot better and stuff, but it is still
Yeah.
like the keyboard tones get a little like too, like it was weird. I noticed like Roger even like later using like a synth trumpety sound a little too much. And
Oh yeah.
then the other ones just
Yeah.
sound like a bad Casio that Lowell's hit, the I mean, it's supposed to sound a
Yeah.
little bit like that, but it was weird because I was like probably like the Wish era one the best because like Perry was doing some kind. It was more like a bell kind of sound than like a full on
Yeah.
synth trumpet or something.
I
But it's
agree. I
just like
like
the
that one.
tones. But
I,
yeah,
that
it's
was a good one. And
yeah. And I pulled up a '84 one, and it was super thin sounding. Like Lowell
yeah,
wasn't even playing anything but the main riff. Usually they hit those back chords and stuff, or as it like
right.
kind of
It was,
builds. But it
yeah.
was just like super thin and kind of awkward sounding. I was just like,
Yeah.
ugh. It's not-
Yeah,
but but
it's hard to, it's one of those. I don't think that they take it very seriously,
yeah,
and that sort of comes through. It's almost like, how can you? I mean, not. It's sort of a trite throwaway type of song.
right,
It's not going to have the same sort of emotional heft as, say, like, sinking or something like that.
right. And I
And
guess that's
so
what
I
makes
think
it
Robert's
fun.
probably always considered a throwaway, but he does still, it still makes the set. So, um, I
Yeah,
mean, he
that's the
has
weird part.
some fondness for
If
it.
if we look at like the history or whatever of how it emerged, it's kind of funny because that's always been this love hate kind of thing with it. It seems,
Yeah.
but like you said, and like you said in the book too, I read back over that. It's a great point of like how sincere any of that is in the sense because it did
Yeah,
get
it's
played
hard
a
to say.
lot. It's always in there. Like if
I
you really
mean,
did
yeah,
hate it that much, it would just disappear.
exactly, exactly. And the thing is like, he much later, I remember one interview with Rolling Stone where he was basically like, "Yeah, of course I like those songs. Yeah, of course I wanted them to sell. Why would you do them if you didn't?" So, like, I think a lot of it was just for the myth making
Yeah.
in the moment. Um,
Yeah, that
and
was funny. I was gonna say that too. I'd written this quote down. It was from a Rolling Stone one. I didn't write the year, but it was much later when he was doing like a reflecting back on the singles kind of thing.
right,
And
right.
it was just like, I mean, you must have run into so much of this with like the contradictory Robert stuff on certain
Um,
songs and albums. But like this was a
I
great
think,
one though, because he says, I'll just read this real quick. He says, when he presented the song to Fiction Records, Let's Go to Bed, he was like, when I took Let's Go to Bed to Fiction and played it to them, it was like silence. They looked at me like, this is it. He's really lost it. They said, you can't be serious. Your fans are going to hate it. And I understood that, but I wanted to get rid of all of that. I didn't want that side of my life anymore. I wanted to do something that really was kind of cheerful, I thought. This isn't going to work. They said, no one's ever going to buy into this. It's so ludicrous that I'm going to go from goth idol to pop star in 3 easy lessons, which doesn't even sound like anything he would ever say. So I wanted to like even fact check. But it was
no, I
funny.
think that that was probably the exact opposite. From what I recall, it was Chris Perry
Right.
who was pushing him to do a pop song.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
that's
think, and Robert was the one trying to prevent him from coming out, and Chris Perry had to overrule him.
yeah, that's the
So
story we all technically do. That's why I was so surprised by that. I was like, who's he taking it to at Fiction anyway? Like Chris Perry produced it with
exactly,
him. It's
it's not like a big conference room board,
right.
of suits that he's like playing for. Well, I think it's okay. Well, I don't think it's so great. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's just like it. I think that was just a little bit of,
He just
a
totally
little bit of,
revisionist history or something.
yeah, exactly.
It's so weird.
He does that a lot.
Because yeah, like the majority of like the references all have the story, like you're saying, where it was, the band kind of imploded. Chris Perry was kind of panicking. He wanted, them to keep doing something. He really wanted a hit anyway. So he's like, hey, if we're gonna sink the ship. We might as well go out with a bang. And he's like, let's do this pop song. Robert's hesitant. He even wants to put it out under a different name because it sounds so drastically
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Recure.
yeah.
And
Which,
yeah.
Robert should thank Chris Perry for standing up, and doing the right thing and putting that out under the Cure's name. But who
Yeah.
knows? Even that may be, you know, a myth making sort of exercise. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that they were probably both on the same page, is my guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know,
or at least he was, yeah, just kind of doctoring
because he
that up
did
to
the
make a
video, he
bigger
did
dig.
two top, he did Top of the Pops, he did the video, and he spent all that money on synthesizers. I mean, like,
Right.
it's like Robert's always said, he's got complete creative control. He can do what he
Yeah,
wants,
especially
except in
back
this instance,
then. Yeah,
like
exactly.
his hands were tied. I mean, I think that he was just trying to cover his bases, basically.
Yeah, like you said earlier, I think it was the safety net where if this didn't work and it blew up in their face, he could be like, "My label made me do it. That's why the Cure
Exactly,
isn't
exactly.
anymore," and he can do whatever he wants to, and if it
But it's sort of
works,
set a
then
template
cool.
for him because he's been able to do that. He's been able to sort of have his cake and eat it too. He's got the sort of credibility, the indie cool, and yet he can put out these frivolous pop songs and just whimsical, great pop songs, and he still wins both sides. So
Yeah,
it's worked for him.
yeah, it was like a very good victory, and like you're saying too, a huge praise. If this is even 50% true, that Chris Perry really was laying down the law and making these things happen, it was such a smart move because you can't because
Yeah,
this, like you're saying, it opened the door for them to do pop music. Now they can do everything. If you think of
yeah, it did. It
they
really
can
did.
and then like by the time Head on the Door in particular comes out, you got everything. You got pop songs, you got
Yeah,
dark, moody songs, you
yeah. And
got
how would that album be even possible without "Let's Go to Bed"? You
right.
know, it just really was the precursor for all of that. And it shows up with Just One Kiss, which to me is the first time that you've got that sort of pop sensibility and the dark edge merging so perfectly.
Yeah.
That was the template for their whole future career.
Right. Yeah, and that's definitely the more representative of actual Cure because that song is like so much cooler. Robert even argued for it to be a double A side, and
Yeah.
and if you think about it, even like Just One Kiss is like if they made that darker, it could have totally fit on Pornography, or you could
Mhm.
totally dork it up and make it super poppy. Like that one could have
Yeah.
gone either way. Like a lot of Cure like later Cure songs, where they could have totally made that more like like just throwing
Oh
like
yeah,
tons of
totally.
synth stuff up there, and maybe change some of the lyrics so it wasn't quite as like
Yeah,
actual
and it
dark
showed
and
up in the set list, and I guess was it
yeah, the
last year? I remember some
2019.
of the festival shows that it was in the set list.
Yeah, yeah, it was regular
So
too. They kept it in all of them pretty much, which was
yeah,
awesome. I was really hoping it
yeah,
would stay, but they haven't played it once since. That's kind of sad,
that's a,
but
yeah, that is sad.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm glad because to me that's the ultimate sign of respect and that it stood the test of time. And Robert looks back on it and he chooses those things carefully. And
yeah,
so having Just One Kiss show up like that just says a lot about it, I think.
yeah, for sure. And I wonder too, going back to the idea of like diehard Dark Cure fans of that era, like maybe that B side was even enough for them not to give up on the Cure. They're
Yeah,
like, well, that song's
yeah,
cooler. And there's been
yeah.
plenty of
That's very
bands who
possible.
like the B side
Yeah.
better. So yeah, maybe that's what hung in there. But yeah, there's this alleged bet too going on to the mythical side of where he said if the single reached top 20, then Chris Perry would release him of his contract, and
Oh God.
he could do a solo album or whatever he wanted.
Oh Lordy.
But which doesn't really make sense because without Simon there, he's pretty much doing whatever he wants anyway.
Yeah, he's
It's like
already got complete control, like freedom. Like he could do a solo album if he wanted to. I don't
yeah,
think Chris Perry ever would have said no.
right. So
I mean, who
yeah.
knows? But like, yeah, those things are just. I think those things are just screwing with the media, basically.
Yeah, filling up the story there. But it didn't, like we said, it made it to 44, which still made it a top 50 hit, which was huge for The Cure.
Right.
not a top 20 hit. So The Cure will
No,
remain. So,
it wasn't. But it set the stage, and it was their first U.S. single, I believe. It was their first U.S. single issued,
yeah.
and it just I think that it really has sort of long term impact beyond its chart positioning, which sometimes a lot of like In Between Days only hit like 15 or something like that. So
Yeah.
some of those Cure singles have a much larger impact in their chart position. Like Boys Don't Cry didn't even chart.
Right, yeah, and
It's just
just like,
crazy.
especially if you look at U.S. charts, like just like Heaven's
Yeah,
like 60 or
yeah,
something. It's like this
yeah.
amazing,
So
perfect pop song, and it didn't even like break anything. Maybe it was like 40 or something too. I forget where
yeah,
it
it hit
was, but
number 40. Exactly,
but
exactly right.
it was
It's
like
like
nowhere near like everyone assumes they're all like love song or Friday I'm in Love or something, but it's like nah, a lot of those classics didn't
yeah,
even do anything over here technically. But I think
yeah.
around that idea with like college radio and stuff, the impact of like MTV cult
So
favorite being more important anyway and having cred.
and like it's
So
interesting, like thinking about like it hitting number 44 in the UK. I'd like to see that week's chart and look at some of the songs ahead of it and
yeah,
think, okay, do these songs do anybody even remember some of these songs? The impact. It's the impact of a song and its chart positioning are two different things.
yeah,
Often.
for sure. Yeah, and I guess just like the style of song, aside from it just being a drastically different pop song, it was also the first one that Lowell wouldn't be drumming on, so it was
That's
hard to
right.
tell how much this idea, they're all kind of tight-lipped surprisingly about that. Even now,
Yeah,
where it's like
yeah.
was this something they had been thinking about prior to like the pornography meltdown, or was it like
That's a good point. I mean, there's not been, I haven't, at least I haven't seen a statement by Robert saying the reason I made that decision at that time was,
yeah,
blank. And there's sort of a hint, because Law gets defensive and basically says, I could have played that part, I
right,
could have played that part. So that's to me indicates that, they just, didn't, obviously his limitations were the reason why they
yeah,
switched to keyboard, thinking, okay, he can pick up the keyboard, but he didn't really make any effort to pick up the keyboard.
right.
And so they brought in Steve Goulding to play drums, and it's basically a solo single.
Right. So yeah,
Um,
like Lowell's not like throwing down all those keyboard parts just out of
no,
nowhere,
certainly,
like
certainly
Robert's
not.
like
No,
hit this,
yeah,
at best.
yeah, those are not. I would imagine that that's not his riff there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
I mean,
so,
at
but
best he showed
that
him
was true
to
all the way up through the end of the top. Really,
yeah.
Robert was sort of solo during that whole couple years period.
Yeah. And again, as far as opening new doors, by making that official move, and it seemed pretty absolute it was going to stay that way.
Yeah,
That kind of
yeah,
showed that even whatever they're going to do next is going to be a lot different, so,
yeah, and it had to be because otherwise there would be no next. You
right.
know,
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, it's weird with Steve Goulding there. How he always gets the credit for "Let's Go to Bed," but they never really mention. I'm assuming he had to have played drums on "Just One Kiss" too, right? Like they sound
yeah.
like,
Well, I'm not off the top of my head. I don't know. I was
yeah,
thinking about that right before we connected, and I don't know.
it,
I'm assuming yes,
yeah,
but I don't know for sure if it was the same session or
yeah.
what.
I always mean to
It's a
listen.
very
It
different
doesn't.
sound.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a drum loop or
So
anything necessarily. So I think he must
yeah, I
be,
don't know.
but
I mean, it almost sounds like it could have been Law,
yeah.
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Interesting. But so yeah, let's see. With him, just by the time it did come out, like we're saying, it did do fairly good. But not huge success. They put it on the 7 inches. Let's see. I'm looking at all the different releases. Like you said, though, like it's interesting because in '86 when they put out the Standing on the Beach, the single that they chose, they didn't choose in the US Boys Don't Cry, New
Right.
Voice, or whatever. They chose Let's Go to Bed, basically, to be
Yeah.
the
Which I
one
think
to
is pretty
represent all
telling.
of their
It
yeah.
says something about that song's
Yeah.
sort of commercial appeal. I mean, although it's funny, Robert claims that Fiction said, you can't put this out. And then just a couple years later, Elektra is choosing it as the first single
The
from the
actual,
compilation.
right, to
You know,
represent all their singles to that point. It's like,
exactly.
wow, jeez.
That's a big turnaround there.
Yeah, and he's like, okay. Like,
Yeah,
if
it did
he,
get yeah, it was released as a single, and I don't think it really did anything, but I do think that college radio really sort of picked it up
yeah.
quite a bit, and it's again it set the stage. That
Hmm.
singles compilation was hugely important. It was a big seller, and it really set the stage for "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me" success.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It's so many fans, like, us that got either hooked by Standing on the Beach or just certain songs off of it in particular,
Mhm.
like even the most diehard Dark Cure era fans, and even our just buds that always like the sad mopey songs most. 90% of us, I feel like, got pulled in because of one of the pop songs, whether it be "Let's Go to Bed" or something else, like
Yeah,
"Just Like Heaven" even, or something, where it's like
exactly.
it's
Those are the
always
gateway drugs because otherwise, how would you even get to like the same deep water as you or like
right.
cockatoos? Like
Yeah,
you never
yeah.
had a chance to hear those unless you bought the album.
Yeah, nobody's like,
I
that's
saw
the
them
one
on
that did
tour.
it for me. Same deep water as you. It was the first time I heard them, and I've that's a
Yeah,
that's an interesting
I heard it
fan.
on the radio and it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And it's like it had to be the pop sync songs for the most part.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty rad. And I guess a big factor with "Let's Go to Bed" too, and the Cure's popularity at this time in general, is the video. Being
Yeah,
being very pivotal, and a lot of people probably catching that on MTV and seeing them for
yeah,
the first
yeah. I mean,
time, and that's such a
I don't remember ever seeing it on MTV
yeah.
personally.
Yeah,
To
I
be
was
honest,
too
but
young and didn't catch it at the
I did watch it
time,
a
but
lot. But I
yeah,
didn't watch like necessarily the alternatives, quote unquote.
right. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
assuming it would just be
but
like the late hours where they had, like for me it was
it's a
100,
goofy
120
video,
minutes
though.
in Alternative
Yeah,
Nation later, but I don't know what they had as far as later hours in the early days, but
I'm not sure. I think probably something along those lines,
yeah.
like a college radio mix or something. But I don't
Right.
know. But
But
like,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
that
it
was
was
the
a goofy
first.
one. I don't know if you remember at that era too. It must have been probably like when that VHS came out of all the videos, though. It was
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah. I have that.
pretty early on when I was kind of digging into everything. And I remember that video being pretty huge in that regards of like, it made me like the song a lot more just because it was so goofy and funny to see
Yeah,
them acting like idiots basically. But
they
at the
were. It's
same
like,
time it was great because it's like it totally worked in the idea of showing that they're not overly moody, and you know what I mean, like every video
yeah,
up to that point, because it is the first Tim Pope one, so he taps into that better than of course anyone with the
yes,
Cure. But
that was a good pairing for sure.
yeah, and I think it
And
worked because
it's
yeah, every video, as much as like Hanging Garden and stuff, they're cool, but they're so like just over
awful,
dramatic, and yeah, it's like there's no like,
awful. It's like
yeah, they're cool
they
in
were not.
hindsight, but yeah, if that was like the first time you're seeing them, you're like, who are these guys? What are they doing?
Yeah, it was totally just like the single. The video was a huge departure, and like, they pull it off. They were just being goofballs, but I think it finally showed sort of their true personality a little bit more because, they were never the type that were constant in misery, like the crazy moaning and the
Yeah.
goth, misery of
Hmm.
pornography or faith. That's not who they were in reality. They had a great sense of humor and they were goofballs. Just
Yeah.
they had those moments. They had melancholy as well. But I mean, I think that they sort of on the "Let's Go to Bed" video, they just let their personalities out. For the first time,
Yeah.
and I think that this captures it pretty well.
Totally.
It's kind of a silly video, but it's a silly song too, so it fits.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it's like just, nonsense too is great. They didn't do anything too literal until they actually climb into beds at the end, but by that point,
Yeah,
it's done. So, or anything, it's like he's not like holding a bowl
yeah.
of milk for, what I mean? It's like just
Oh
weird,
yeah.
which is like
I think
low
it
budget
is
weird.
clever in the sense that Robert, he said at one point that he was trying to write, a sort of pop pastiche about almost a parody of what a typical top 40 song was,
Right.
and he said they're all about going to bed, like having sex. So he literally named it "Let's Go to Bed." It's sort of a
Right.
dry kind of like, and sort of in that sort of dry humor. It's sort of very sardonic, and that's sort of what the song to me is like. It's got that sort of knowing, sort of weariness, like, oh, here I'm doing a pop song kind of thing, and it sort of comes through in it, and
Yeah.
sort of he's a little detached in the video almost. It's like, oh, here we're doing this, we're doing this. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some truth there, I think, to his ambivalence about it to some degree, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
and you get that kind of Robert character that we all
Yeah,
know and love for the first time. You
yeah,
you kind of
totally.
see that, where he's just like this awesome weirdo that you're like, I want to hang out with this dude.
Yeah,
It's just like I don't know what's going on here with these silver apples, and but at the same
yeah.
time, yeah, it's just
And the
super
dancing,
fun.
and behind the blinds,
Yeah.
it's just it's goofy, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's funny what you're saying with the lyrics too. There's a quote I jotted down from Melody Maker. He had said at one point where he says, "I realized that when I did it, meaning that song, that it wasn't horrible enough. It just wasn't quite dumb enough to be commercial." So it's kind of like something I've tapped onto a lot of, like, where even when people bitch about Friday I'm in Love and stuff, I'm like, but that's the genius of it, is it still is
It's a great song. Friday in Love is a
yeah,
great
it's
song.
still weirdo cure enough where that one, just the mainstream caught up to them, if they say, or whatever. But it's like,
Yes.
he's still, that bridge is so like, what, like, see you eat in the middle of the night, I mean, that's like shit you don't hear in like
Exactly.
a Duran Duran song or
And
something.
yeah, nobody else could get away with a line like that. It's
Yeah,
straight
that's
face.
like,
It's the Cure. It's a
yeah.
great song.
And that's why, yeah, like, while this is like so poppy for a Cure song, it's still so weird. Like, just the lyrics, even like the shaking like milk when I'm like singing it, or my kid loves that
Yeah.
song. He's like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I don't know, but who cares?"
I mean,
It
it's a
means,
brilliant line. And then laughing at the Christmas lights. You remember from me? I mean, it's got
yeah,
all these great lines. And you think you're tired now? Well, wait until at 6 when they
yeah,
do it live. For some reason, I don't know why
totally.
they change it from 3 to 6. I
But
don't. I'm sure there's an explanation for it.
yeah, but that's a
It's
great
just the
line
little
too.
details. It's like, it's one of the songs you've heard 10 zillion times, and you can stick it in your head, and it's definitely an earworm.
Yeah,
Um,
and something
Something
I
that was just
always,
really tossed off. It's kind of an experiment.
yeah. And I always praise like his really super passionate and serious lyrics, in the sense that, it's always vague enough where anyone can apply it to their life, where it's
Yeah.
has just as enough literal stuff in there where he's painting this picture, but it's like you don't really know if he's, talking about a relationship or death or what, you know what I mean, where
Yeah.
it's still just vague enough. And it's cool with this to see that he does that even with the super goofy pop songs, like, where
Totally.
it
Totally.
still can mean enough where you like can put it into your life at any moment and be like, exactly, like,
It's so true. It's so true.
so,
And he's a genius. He's a gifted lyricist.
yeah,
When you think about things like "High," for instance, from the Wish album,
yeah,
it's just such great lyrics. And he is the whimsical side of him on these pop songs should not be underestimated or underrated, because that's one of his strengths.
yeah,
That's one of his strengths. These sort of from left field verbiages and phrasings that he uses, and different types of, it's one of the things that makes him so special.
yeah.
And other artists just couldn't get away with it, but he
Right.
can do it. He can do it. He can do it with such, grace and like humor and whimsy. It's like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, you totally buy it. Yeah, even if at worst it's just weird, and you're like, all right, I don't know what he's talking about, but it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
it's,
But
it's
it's
always a,
secure, so
yeah.
it's like,
At least it's always cool, and that's, unfortunately, that's, what stops it from being the number one actual Billboard hit. A lot of times, but that's
yeah,
what makes it
it's okay.
cool. Because who wants
Then
that?
Robert would break up the band.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody wants that, right? So it just makes it cool and weird enough where it's but yeah, you don't ever want to
Exactly.
totally have everybody liking it, but yeah, that's what I always love with Friday I'm in Love, where it broke through enough where so many people loved it, but then he still kept it weird enough where it felt like a Cure
Hmm.
song still. So
Yeah, and it wasn't. It's it's like there's very few examples of him. Like, obviously, okay, he's going after a pop top 40 hit, and Fry I'm in Love was clearly one of those instances
Mhm.
where he knew it was commercial, but it was such a great song that it hardly matters. That doesn't matter to me anyway.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
me too.
And-
It's like if you're gonna go out on that, then cool, sign sign me up
yeah.
too. Then
I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with wanting success,
yeah,
and but you go for it on your own terms, and it's when it happens, they've always been true to themselves.
yeah, yeah. It still feels like a Cure song, so that's cool. There's been so many bands that when you do see that, and you do just kind of like go, ugh, when
Yeah.
it doesn't work, or they're trying this whole
Yeah.
different sound or something, just like, eesh. But he
Yeah.
pulls it
And
off most of
not
the time.
everything the Cure's done has worked,
Right.
but it was genuine. It's
Yeah.
always been genuine.
For sure. Musically, even I guess as we touched on the lyrics for the song, cool. It wasn't anything, I guess, mind-blowingly different as far as synth pop for that time. When you think of what else was going on, but at the same time, it works, and it was very cool that they were able to pull that off without even really having a band and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's pretty
Yeah. I mean, I
rad.
think it's good. I think it's stripped down. It's got a lot of space in it.
Yeah.
It's not overly cluttered. Like, the walk, I think, maybe a little bit more, a little too
Yeah.
much. But
Yeah.
like, that's got a nice vibe to it.
But
Um,
yeah, it seems like a cool radio synth pop kind of deal. But I always kind of noted, I mean, it just doesn't make sense in their timeline when you look at the history. But I always wish that he kind of would have taken a little more time to stew in the kind of synth pop world for maybe a full album, like do something
yeah.
that would have been a little more full on drum loops and just kind of Depeche Mode or Yaz sounding, and
Yeah,
that
that
with
would have been
Robert
interesting.
vocals.
Like, they were talking about they were planning on doing a hits collection
Uh
in
huh.
that synth pop style. Around that time,
Uh,
there was talk about re-recording some of the old tracks in the new synth pop style, which,
oh
in
wow.
retrospect, I'm glad they did not do that, follow through with it.
Yeah.
Um, but an album, like a full album, I mean, Japanese Whispers was almost there.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you
That's
just
what.
add, Mr. Pink Guy and like
That's
maybe another track, and
yeah.
um,
Just in
I
cure.
don't know why that one wasn't included, but like it was what, 8 tracks, Japanese
Yeah. That's
Whispers.
been
So
at
they
least
almost had an
6.
album's worth, but that was
Yeah.
over a span of time. It would have been interesting to just stick in the Let's Go to Bed time frame and have done a full album around that. And
Yeah, would have been cool. Even just to something instead of like top era, maybe even like just because even like the
yeah,
glove or something almost could have gone
yeah,
that direction, but then he just got so kind of in Severn's weird world, I think, of like making it super trippy and more like
yeah. I mean, the
world
glove
music
was good. It
instruments
was
and
really
shit.
good.
Yeah, I mean, and parts
There
of
were a
that
couple of
even.
songs that he sang on. Like, I always sort of, Mr. Alphabet Says and Perfect Murder. I
Yeah,
always sort of append those to my Japanese Whispers, and so you almost like, and then add Mr. Pink Eye, and then boom, you've got a full album.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've done the same thing. So
They
yeah, it's cool.
all fit together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then you think about it, it's only like 6 months apart or something. It's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
exactly. So,
it's crazy. But
I mean, it's just, it fills a gap because you go straight from, when you look at the albums, you go straight from pornography to the top. It's kind of like, okay, there's something missing here.
right, yeah, yeah. Totally must be confusing to anybody that doesn't really dive in or catch that on the first. It's like, wow,
Right.
that's even.
A lot of people consider Japanese Whispers just an album.
Yeah,
And for people, it is. It is. They don't even. A lot of people don't even realize it was sort of just a compilation of singles and B-sides,
right.
and that's cool. However you listen to it, you listen to it. But and same with sort of the Boys Don't Cry album in America, anyway.
Yeah,
People consider that the debut. The Three Imaginary Boys wasn't even released here until many years later. So
yeah.
Japanese Whispers, people have it. They listen to it, and it has sort of a sequence, and people like it the same way they like any of the Cure albums. So
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, as a kid, totally just thought it was the next album. Didn't make that connection at all. I was just like, wow,
yeah,
this one has a
yeah,
lot of
same.
big singles. It's like,
I mean,
wait,
until
what?
much later, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Because I guess if you had them coming out as like just dropping singles, how weird that would be.
Yeah,
And then Love Cats makes a little bit more sense, but it's odd how much Love Cats even still fits on like a synth pop
it
album.
does.
You
It
know, it's like
does.
how does this
It
work?
just
You know.
fits. I think Just One Kiss, gives there's enough sort of versatility of variety there to sort of make it fit in kind of,
Yeah,
works to Speak My Language has that sort of jazzy vibe too.
yeah.
So you end up with like four really synthy songs and then like, maybe one, two, three, four that are, there's enough variety there. It feels like an album.
Pretty cool, and glad that it's hanging in there. And it is odd looking at the current tour, though they haven't played it yet, which almost is a bit surprising that
That is
because
surprising, and I'm not too disappointed by that. I mean,
yeah, like we were saying,
it's
it's like no one's really
it's
arguing, but at the same
yeah,
time, I'm like, oh yeah, there's an anniversary and everything. So
it's an important single. It was a pivotal single for them, historically. But at the same time, I doubt anybody's walking away from the show going, "Oh my God,
oh
it would have been
damn,
awesome if they would have just done Let's Go to Bed." I
exactly.
can't believe they didn't play that. Damn it, I
Because
want my money back.
yeah, because the walk has been a part of the last encore they've been doing. I don't know if you've noticed. There's like the 7 songs that they haven't like steered away from. They've been doing like mega
Yeah,
pop encore, and
yeah.
it's all
I
like
mean,
the
Let's Go to
power
Bed has
ones.
always sort of been in that next tier. I think from
Yeah,
like it's going to be if they play a 42 song set.
right. And yeah,
Um,
and it was usually paired with the walk a lot, but I think if you put the two together, they're always going to choose the walk over it. So
yeah, which I think is, honestly, I like Let's Go to Bed better than The Walk even because
yeah,
to me, The Walk has not aged as well as Let's
yeah.
Go to Bed. I'm just kind of, it's annoying to me. I don't know. I never
Yeah,
really
it's a
listened
weird
to it anymore.
one. It's
Um,
technically a cooler song, maybe, but I think I like "Let's Go to Bed" a lot more. I'd rather just it be
yeah,
fun than, and and both of them.
yeah.
I'm not crazy
Like if
about
I had to
live,
choose
like you
between the two,
said.
I would definitely go with Let's Go to Bed. But like
Yeah,
neither of them are really like screaming out at me. Like
right.
I'd much rather hear Just One Kiss and or
uh,
Love Cats even.
yeah. So,
But hey, they're all good songs.
so we'll see. Yeah, but yeah, maybe let's see. Yeah, it's been played as far as stats 591 times live.
Yeah.
Mostly during the Wish tour, but that was such a huge tour that it's kind of a skewed stat
Yeah.
probably. But
Yeah.
and then yeah, so the anniversary's coming up on this Tuesday, November 15th. They'll be in France, so it'll be interesting to see if they pull it out for the first time on
I
that
hope
or
so. I mean, maybe
yeah.
if they're aware of it, I'm sure they probably are,
He seems to
aware of
really
these
like
things.
his anniversaries, and but who knows at
Yeah.
this point? Yeah, maybe it's not
I mean, it's
worth.
possible. It's like you would think that it will show up at some point.
Yeah,
It's probably so well ingrained they don't even need to rehearse it, I would imagine.
yeah. You wonder how much all these ones like that are. They're just like, should we do it in sound check? Maybe like
Yeah.
two times before, see if it works, and then if not, yeah.
I
But
mean, they probably got it worked out, but
yeah,
it'll show up, I predict.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So, but yeah, I guess
It's an old war horse.
yeah.
It's been there. It's durable. So
Yeah, they could probably play it in their sleep. So, but yeah, I guess as we wrap up though, just the idea of like we started with that its role in the Cure is as far as skewing what they can do is probably more monumental than the actual tune, but it
it
really
is. But
did it is very pivotal and broke them out of that goth pigeonhole kind of thing.
yeah,
And
and it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have done that if it wasn't at least a pretty cool song.
yeah,
And so I think it is. It is a cool song. It's just for me at least it's been overplayed, and
right,
that's nobody's fault but my own. But like,
yeah, yeah,
it's not. It doesn't have that same magic as say Just Like Heaven, but it is certainly an important song in their career arc.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, very much so. And and then I think it's just further cemented by those singles with Walk and Love Cats. It's like seals the deal that, even by the time he gets to the top, you're kind of like, all right, we could do anything on this,
And they do, and they absolutely
Yeah,
do,
they totally do for
and
the
they
rest
go
of the
from like being stuck in that pornography sort of tight sort of confines that they found themselves in,
Yeah,
suddenly they could do anything, and that had to be really freeing.
for sure. Yeah. So, and I think he likes that. Variety is good with him too.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's very cool. But yeah. So we'll say a very happy 40th birthday to Let's Go to Bed. And
Happy birthday.
yeah, tough.
Let's get some cake.
Yeah, we'll go chow down on some Let's Go to Bed cake as it gets late. Maybe we should just go to bed. But before we go, as far as yeah, you definitely the FAQ book is still out there, and we're closing in on holiday season again. So I think
it is perfect timing with the tour, and for the Cure fan on your Christmas or holiday list, and or any random day is always a good day for the Cure FAQ.
Exactly. Yeah, and I definitely can't say enough wonderful things about this book. I've had it pretty much next to my computer, since buying it, and it's been great for this podcast as far as like refreshing, just done little things here and there. We all know the main story, but it is great to have such a concise book that pulls all of it together, and then having your own touch in there is someone that clearly knows the Cure history and has great opinions on it. So I love it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So yeah, do you have a new one in the works, or what you
working on? I do, and I'm not going to divulge it just yet.
Yeah, okay.
I do have another one in the works.
Nice.
And fingers crossed. I don't want to predict it, but I'm hoping probably a year from now will be in stores. So fingers crossed.
Excellent. Cool. Well, that'll be enough. Cure fans are good at waiting, so we'll we'll keep the mystery alive, and I'll keep everybody out there posted for you. So.
That's how I justified the delay of the Cure FAQ, because I was like, well, if Robert can do it, I can delay.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm ever late on an episode, I'm like, you guys, you got this.
Exactly. So we still don't have a new album. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Somebody sent me a message the other day. It was like, yeah, you should do like a new album predictions thing. And I was like, yeah, we did like 3 years ago. It's so old now. It doesn't even pop up in the feed. It's like, I'm going to have to re-listen to it to see what the hell I even predicted,
I think that Robert had promised at one point new music prior to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think it'll be worth it hearing the new songs. I won't spoil them in any way for you, but I'm I'm looking
forward to it. I really am excited about it.
Yeah, and they're real cool. They're sounding great.
As long as they need to take,
Yeah, exactly. Awesome, man. Well, I'll let you go since it is getting late and we need to go to bed. But thank you so much, and it's great to have you back on. Sorry it took so long, but thank you for being willing.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great talking Cure with you. So
that was good. Always good to talk Cure.
Yeah, and best of luck there, and being back on the East Coast, and we'll be in touch, man. So.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. And we'll say talk hard. My little Cure fiends, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and are pumped up to go listen to Let's Go to Bed one more time for its big special birthday. Again, special thank you to Christian Gerard, and if you haven't yet, go check out that book, Cure FAQ. You can order it right on Amazon. It's only about $20, and it's totally worth it. You should have it in your Cure library for sure. And I also recommend going back and listening to last year's episode 181, where we talked about his process of writing the book and getting some backstory on that. If you're new to the show, I recommend it. Go check it out. It was another wonderful conversation with Christian. So we're just going to wrap up with a giant thank you to our Patreon crew. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the support. If you're out there and you're curious about joining the Holy Hour Patreon, just go to patreon.com/the Holy Hour Podcast, and you could be in wonderful company like Donna and Craig and Jeff Hilton, Jeff Cortland Jones, Sue, Ben, John, Allison, Alan, Dione, Namicio, Danny, and Coulter, and Matt Ford out in the UK. Thank you so much, guys. And of course, Dana, who also happens to be a motion designer and animator and wants you to check out her webpage. It's now new and improved graphics, and that's graphics.tv, graphics.tv, and there you can check out her wonderful art and work and her artwork, and you can also reach out to her if you are hoping to promote your business or project through eye-catching motion graphics. Go check out her motion graphics reel at graphics.tv. And Scott, of course, is a wonderful human and podcaster. He is part of the All Star Wars podcast called the Sarlacc Digest. And you should watch it and listen to it. And they do live shows every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's on YouTube. And you can also catch replays, of course, everywhere that you listen to podcasts. But check out the live shows. It's real fun. Each week they bring you quality line talk and keep you up to date on all Star Wars topics, confirmed and rumored. Always great perspective from those guys on the whole Star Wars universe. I'm usually over there in the chat room on Wednesday nights, mostly just listening. But come on over and say hi. Bring your Jedi cloak and Jar Jar mask, and we'll keep it nerdy with the Sarlacc Digest. Lisa says, check out Dickens, yyc.com, because that's the website for the hottest venue in Calgary that hosts a wide range of live shows and events. There, you will see the full list of upcoming shows, everything from live music to dance nights to trivia nights. Maybe your band's even looking for a place that you should play that's cool in Calgary. Chances are Dickens is the spot, so go check them out. If you don't feel like leaving the house, you can even follow them still on Twitch and catch any live stream action they might do. As we approach the Thanksgiving season here in the U.S., Matt wants to remind you that the Red Cross Blood Donor app is a great place to schedule an appointment to donate some blood. When you need blood transfusions, you get real thankful real fast, so don't leave your fellow humans hanging. They need the blood, you got it. So donate some blood and make a difference. And as always, check out Kate's website, curethreads.com. There you will find Kate's original Cure-inspired artwork on a wide range of products, including shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, cell phone cases, and just prints of her lovely artwork. So get a jump on the holiday shopping and make it a very Cure Christmas by ordering lots of goodies from curethreads.com. And while you're at it, go on over to Chaz's site, 17secondshirts.bigcartel.com, and check out what he has up for pre-order. And if he doesn't have anything up for pre-order, you might want to just follow him at 17_seconds on Instagram, and you'll be ready to pounce on the next one that does pop up. And as for us here at the Holy Hour, well, I just ask that you come on back for more Cure Talk next time, and we're going to start to wind down the year, and the best way to do that is to subscribe on Apple or YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow the Holy Hour Podcast on Instagram, and go ahead and like our Facebook page too while you're at it, because sometimes we throw a little extra nuggets on there to accompany each episode. And you're always welcome to email me directly at gavinconnor@gmail.com. We've got the second half of the Lost World Tour still ahead, so keep your eyes peeled for any tour updates. And that Wish Deluxe reissue is going to start shipping out pretty soon, so get your mouth watering for that. And lots of good fun stuff on the home stretch of 2022. Thanks again to author Christian Gerard. You're always a pleasure to have on the show. Thanks, man. And thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Holy Hour Podcast.